All right. Welcome to the 7th Biennial CNHP Partners Meeting. This is absolutely wonderful to see you all here. Thank you so much for coming. It's a big day here today. So I'm wondering who all here was at our first partners meeting held in 2014. Would you raise your hand if anyone was here? Oh, yay, look at that. Wow, a bunch of you. That's cool. Thanks for hanging with us for a really long time. And how many of you were here for the one in 2024, 2 years ago? Oh, yeah. Awesome. Okay, welcome back. We're going to try to entertain you in the same style that we did last time here. This year, we've got over 150 people registered in person, and a lot of people joining us online, and it's looking like this is the biggest partners meeting that we've ever had. Thank you. Our online conversation is being moderated by Brittany Moreau-Nordentoft, and Brittany's sitting right over here. So she'll be in charge of bringing any input in from partners who are online. So we want to make sure that you feel totally at home here today with all of your needs met. This is a map of this floor of the Laurie Student Center. When you go out these doors and take a left, there are bathrooms for all genders, there's bathrooms to the right and to the left. There's a lactation room down there when you go down the hall to the left. And there's an AED that I hope we don't need right outside these two doors. And there's also an elevator just outside this door and another one farther down the hall to the left. So if you need help finding your way around here, CNHP staff will be happy to help point you in the right direction. So the purpose of today's meeting is to better connect Colorado's professional conservation community, and that's been the mission of the partners meeting right from the get-go. We're going to provide some updates on CNHP's work throughout the day, mostly in the morning, and then we're going to receive updates from some of our key partners as well. CNHP partners will be speaking throughout the day. We also have a table in the back where everyone is encouraged to leave things that you wish to share with everybody here at the partners meeting, or you can pick up materials that others have left. Want to make sure that this is a benefit to everybody in your networking efforts. So our program is uniquely positioned in Colorado. We're part of CSU. And we are part of the land-grant mission of research, education, extension, and service here at CSU. It is an absolutely wonderful institutional home for us. I mean, where else do they serve coffee in these massive towers than at an academic institution? We exist here as a totally soft-funded program with over 50 permanent staff. Can the CNHP staff please stand? At CNHP, we don't manage or own land, we don't set regulations or make any land management decisions. Everything we do at CNHP is in the service of you, our partners, who are the ones who are actually doing the conservation on the ground. Without you, our work would only be done for the sake of knowledge, which is good, but that is not our mission. Our mission is to advance the conservation of Colorado's native species and ecosystems through science, planning, and education for the benefit of current and future generations. I think the future generation part of that is very important because of the implicit duty that it gives us as nature's stewards now. I really like this. This is called the Data to Decision Life Cycle, or the 7 Cs. This describes the core of what Colorado Natural Heritage Program does. We collect data through field work and through our partnerships with you. Let's see if I can make the laser work. We bring data together into biotics and other data products. We calculate Oh yeah, and that was the curation part. We calculate, and that is the science part of our work, assessing trends and identifying opportunities for conservation. We communicate through our reports to you, our website, our media, including our social media now, and importantly through Codex and the Colorado Wetlands Information Center, which you can access online. And collaboration is, and developing technology solutions support all of the work on these 4 C's. But the 7th C is you, making the decisions on how to manage, develop, and conserve lands and biodiversity. So thank you very much for being the 7th C. Oh, we wanted to make a little shout out to a colleague, a long-term colleague in the NatureServe network, Bob Gottfried. I think some of you here in the room know Bob. He has just a few days left in his career with the NatureServe network. He's retiring from his role as program leader of the Texas Natural Diversity Database. He also worked at the Louisiana and Illinois heritage programs through some of his 27 years with the network. And I'm realizing now that I forgot to point out 2 very important people here who are telling me to get the heck off the stage. This is Jess Cheadle and Rob Shore. They are our timekeepers today. So as you're speaking, please pay close attention to them and make sure that you do what they say, which I better do. I also wanted to tell you that for speakers, I'll show you how to use this little clicker. We have speaker notes for everybody up in front here if you need speaker notes, because the screens here don't show you your speaker notes. Okay, let's go ahead and queue up Dr. Rich Conant, our interim dean of the Warner College of Natural Resources. Oh yeah. Oh, I messed up. We're going to do our land acknowledgement first real quick, Rich. Okay, would you guys mind queuing that up and back?
Colorado State University acknowledges with respect that the land we are on today is the traditional and ancestral homelands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute nations and peoples.
This was also a site of trade, gathering, and healing for numerous other native nations.
We recognize the indigenous peoples as original stewards of this land and all the relatives within it.
As these words of acknowledgement are spoken and heard, the ties nations have to their traditional homelands are renewed and reaffirmed.
CSU is a land-grant institution, and we accept that our mission must encompass access to education and inclusion.
And significantly, that our founding came at a dire cost to Native nations and peoples whose land this university was built upon.
This acknowledgement is the education and inclusion we must practice in recognizing our institutional history, responsibility, and commitment.
Well, I think it's my turn. Good morning, everybody. My name is Rich Conant, and I'm the interim dean for the Warner College of Natural Resources. I've been on this job for about 3 months now. I feel like I've learned a lot. One thing I know I need some practice on is giving remarks to groups like this. So I hope you'll bear with me a little bit. One of the pleasures of the job that I've had as interim dean is to learn more about the units within the college. I was department head for the Ecosystem Science and Sustainability Department. I was a longtime research scientist at the Natural Resource Ecology Lab, and I feel like I know the way those units function very well. Dave and I have a long history. We were students together at the University of Colorado in the same major back in the day. We didn't know each other, but we have a long history. But I didn't know that much about CNHP and what it does, and one of the pleasures of being interim dean has been able to, me being able to learn about what the different organizations within the college do. And let me say, I've been super impressed with CNHP and all the work that they do. And it gives me a great pleasure to give you a few words of encouragement before your meeting starts today. So I want to say that this meeting matters because the work that you're doing matters. Colorado is changing quickly and landscapes are under pressure, as everybody knows. We read it in the paper every day. Decisions are being made all the time about land use, water use, development, restoration, access, conservation. And those decisions are better when they're informed by strong science, shared facts, and clear communication. And that's a big part of what CHP does and why this meeting is so important. CNHP helps create the knowledge base that others rely on. It helps us understand what is rare, what is vulnerable, what is changing, and what's at stake. It helps us ensure that conservation decisions are not made in the dark. And that work is not abstract. It influences real choices, what gets protected, what gets restored, what gets monitored, what risks are emerging, and where action is most needed. And CNHP's work, therefore, has real consequences for Colorado. And as I said, it's a pride for me to have them in the Warner College. And one of the things I especially appreciate about CNHP is that it really sits at the intersection of science and land use. It produces rigorous information, but also makes that information useful. That's harder than it sounds. Many of our units in the college take pride on producing information, but there are fewer that take pride on making that information useful for real decisions. Good science matters, but communication matters too. Information only helps if it can be understood, if it's trusted, and if in ways that can be applied. And this is one of the reasons that gatherings like this one are so valuable. They're not just about updates, they're about communication in a deeper sense. Over the course of this meeting, you're going to build shared understanding, you're going to be comparing perspectives, you're going to be surfacing needs, identifying gaps, and you're going to be strengthening the relationships that are required to make this coordination possible. Conservation depends on communication more than we sometimes are willing to admit. Across institutions, across disciplines, across jurisdictions, across different kinds of expertise. No one organization sees the whole picture on its own. That's why partnerships are so important. CNHP value doesn't come only from the data it stewards or from the analyses it provides. It also comes from being part of the broader network of people and organizations committed to understanding Colorado and acting thoughtfully. I also want to say that Warner College is really proud to be home to CNHP. CNHP reflects something important about who we aspire to be. Rigorous, useful, outward-facing, committed to the public good. It's a powerful example of the land-grant university mission. It also feels like an especially important moment for this kind of work. The challenges are becoming more complex, not less complex. We need strong information. We need trusted relationships. And we need to communicate well enough that science can be actually travel into decisions, policy, management, and practice. My hope for today is that it helps strengthen exactly those things. Relationships, shared understanding, and clarity about where collective effort can make the biggest difference. If today helps people leave better connected, better informed, and better aligned, then that's meaningful and that's mission accomplished. Because better communication leads to better decisions, and better decisions matter for the future of Colorado's natural heritage. Thanks again for being here, and thank you for your partnership with CNHP. And thank you for the work you do every day to make conservation in Colorado more informed, more connected, and more effective. And I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rich. I think there's a guest here today, Gary Beauvais, who's got me beat in knowing Rich longer. Gary went to high school with Rich, and he wanted to say hi. Let's see. All right, see ya. Okay, so we've got a really ambitious agenda today. We're going to keep on track with our timekeepers. I also wanted to mention that at 11 o'clock, a class is going to join us. It's the ESS capstone class from the Ecosystem Science and Sustainability Department. These are all the students that are about to graduate in that major. We're going to suggest hiring as many of them as you can. They're going to sit in the chairs in the back and filter into tables around you where there's empty seats. We've engaged with that class ever since that major started. And this year we have 3 student groups from that class working with us. We also built in a lot of time in the agenda for you to connect with other partners here and hope that you're able to make some new connections. Our break in the afternoon is a little bit longer, and that's to allow extra time for us to connect with our federal partners who do not have a panel today because of the challenges in getting permission to speak in recorded events like this one. So I hope you'll take advantage of that opportunity to connect with our federal friends. So I'm going to give a quick introduction to the Statewide Natural Heritage Survey, and then we're going to kick off a morning full of speakers before our break. So Statewide Natural Heritage Survey, okay, here's our program for the morning. If you're one of these speakers and you're not already sitting in one of these 2 tables, please come on up and join us there so that we can have quick transitions between all of our speakers, of which we have about 39 today. So the Statewide Natural Heritage Survey is a massive effort. It's considerably larger than any other single project the CNHP has ever undertaken. It involves all of CNHP's partners in one way or another. In this morning's lightning talk style format, we're going to attempt to update you on all of the elements of this project. And I think it's important to think about why we're doing this. We have a little climate change problem right now. And when you look at the Colorado Climate Report for February, there's a lot of record-setting events that happened in February. But it got even crazier in March. And they don't have the March report out yet, but headlines Googling that topic now are telling us that the hottest March temperatures on record, the temperatures in March were the hottest on record, nearly 30 degrees above normal, all-time low snowpack, and in Crested Butte, people are holding other people's beers. I'm going to suggest that we send a team down to investigate that. But have we hit a tipping point? I mean, what's going on here? It kind of feels like one. So that's sort of understanding where our biodiversity is at in terms of climate change is a really important thing for us to do now. We're also in a bit of a biodiversity crisis with all of the major groups here at risk of, with many elements of biodiversity at risk of extinction. Colorado's population is growing. It's leveled off just a little bit in the last couple of years, but it's still growing a lot. We've got to put those people somewhere. And recreation is a big deal in Colorado. $62 billion in total economic contribution in Colorado, 500,000 jobs. It's critical for us to develop outdoor recreation right. What I love about Colorado is that we're facing all of these challenges head on. We know that maintaining our incredible quality of life in our beautiful state hinges on our success in protecting what makes Colorado so special. Colorado's Outdoors strategy was completed last year under leadership by CPW, GOCO, Colorado DNR, and the Governor's Office with support from a consultant team that included CNHP. Through the Colorado's Outdoors strategy, we are unifying these 3 North Star goals to ensure a future where our people, outdoors, community character, and ways of life endure for generations to come. Pretty dang exciting to be a part of that vision. Colorado's outdoor regional partnerships are where the rubber meets the road to plan recreation and conservation together. This network continues to grow as we speak. To support all of this, we need a solid baseline. We need to level up the conservation data across Colorado to equitably empower regional partnerships, tribes, counties, and communities in their efforts to pursue conservation and find a balance between all of these forces. There has never been a time when this work was more urgent. And this project is at the core of what we do at CNHP also. This is us. We have never had a project like this so focused on our core mission at such a large scale. It has already transformed CNHP in some fundamental ways, and we're going to show those to you this morning. Through the statewide Natural Heritage Survey, we have modernized our program, changed our workflows, tackled data backlogs, formed new partnerships, and we developed and institutionalized approaches to work at scale. We're embedding these approaches in all of our work at CNHP. We still joke that this is an airplane that we are building while we are flying it. And the reality of doing that has gotten a lot less scary as we have made progress and overcome some really big challenges. And we are all inspired by the flight plan for this flight, which is the future. So let's go ahead and kick off our session here. Our first speaker is Tristan Kubik with a story from the field. He's going to introduce our very special guests as part of this segment.
Thank you, Dave. Ooh, thank you, Dave. I don't think... Forward. Oh, thank you. Critical information. Wow. Well, I'll just preface this by saying, I may be following in the illustrious footsteps of Rick Knight. This is a little bit of a sensitive and very touching topic for me, so forgive me if there's a little bit of tears here. We had a spectacular opportunity this last field season to work with the landowners of the Eastern Grasslands Coalition. And I'd just like to share a little story, one of my favorites from that field work. I spend a lot of my career, I'm the entomologist with the Colorado Natural Heritage Program. I spend a lot of my time curating insects. But I've also been curating a little bit more of a personal list. I call it my favorite corners of Colorado. And one such corner is the southwest corner of Dan Merriweather's South Peyton Place pasture. There's an old USGS survey marker there. There was a cement fence post that was put in the 1920s. And from that fence post, around this time of year, especially this year, behind you, you'll hear thousands of our state bird, the lark bunting, doing their mating displays. And in front of you are the Spanish peaks that almost appear like clouds as the tops are kissed with a little bit of the last of spring snow. And we did some remarkable work on these pastures. We generated what is right here, the Colorado Eastern Grasslands insect collection, which we're going to dedicate and donate today. And I really just want to understate the value of this collection. While a lot of insects died to make this happen, it is going to be a landmark collection for the Eastern Grasslands, hopefully, serving as an educational tool, serving as ambassadors. We'll get a little bit more into that. But before I take up too much of my time, I'd like to introduce the illustrious folks who I have up here with me. First, we have Dan Merriweather, who's a rancher and the lead of the Eastern Grasslands Coalition. And then I have with me Rebecca Fries and Liam Bauer, two students who spent a tremendous amount of time putting this collection together. And so I'd like to invite them all to say a little something, and then I would like to invite the curators of this collection to donate and dedicate this collection to the Eastern Grasslands Coalition. So Dan, would you like to say a few words?
I apologize, I'm not really prepared to do this, but I have certainly appreciated my time with Tristan and his staff when they came down to my property. I understand that this collection will go home with me, and it will take a place of honor with my dung beetle that they gave me earlier, which and thank you for very much.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Oh, no. Hi, I'm Rebecca Fries, and I work as an assistant curator with Tristan. And even though I didn't get to be in the field to actually collect these specimens, it was a great honor to be able to put this collection together. and kind of figure out the puzzle of what's happening in eastern Colorado and on your land. And so I hope you enjoy this collection because it was really just a joy to make it. And some people might tell you that I was a little nervous and very anxious about putting it together. But it's just because it was one of my first collections that I've ever put together and curated, and hopefully the first of many for me. And yeah, so I just hope you enjoy it because we really had so much fun putting it together. So thank you for allowing this to happen.
Here, Liam, I'll hold it. Yeah. Go ahead here.
Hello, I'm Liam Bauer. I actually got to spend time on your ranch this summer, and it was wonderful. We had some really fun collecting nights. And I'm really happy that those insects that we collected are going to such a cool place. Some really good memories and a wonderful time. Yeah, I had really a wonderful time putting this together with Rebecca, and I'm happy that we can give it to you, Mr. Merriweather. Yeah. Do you have the dedication?
It's right here. Would you like to read it?
Oh, it is. Wait, hold on.
So Liam is now going to dedicate this collection to the Eastern Grasslands Coalition. And before he does, I'd just like to say a few things about this collection. This is a Leopoldian dream come true. This collection has specimens in it from 5 different ranches all over roadsides. And it really does represent the power of collaborating with private landowners to advance conservation, especially of really neglected groups such as invertebrates. So without further ado, Liam, please go ahead and dedicate the collection.
This insect teaching collection was prepared for the Eastern Grasslands Coalition by the Colorado Natural Heritage Program. We dedicate this collection to the kind, generous, and patient Merriweather family who helped make it possible. May the insects who so nobly sacrificed their lives for this collection now serve for time immemorial as teachers and ambassadors inspiring future generations of prairie stewards. Insect specimens were collected by Walter Morton, Tao Liu, Liam Bauer, me, Nathan Komai, and Tristan Kubik. Specimens were prepared by Rebecca Fries, Elizabeth Brockhoff, Grain McCready, Bridget Lavender, and Bailey Stender. This insect collection was patiently and thoughtfully curated by Rebecca Fries and Liam Bauer. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. You did beautiful work.
Thank you so much, Tristan, Dan, Liam, and Rebecca. Next up is our private lands conservation team. Let's see, where's Caitlin and Robin? Okay, so joining us here is Robin and Caitlin from Keep It, Colorado.
Thank you.
This advances the slides.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. I'm Robin Palikas. I'm the executive director of Keep It Colorado. It's a role I've only been in for less than a year, so I'm still sort of learning the ins and outs of the organization. And I maybe first want to thank CNHP for inviting us up here and to be part of this meeting. It's so inspiring to see everything that everybody's accomplishing and kind of all the good stuff that folks are up to. Prior to stepping into this current role, I had always heard CNHP held up as a nationwide example of private land data being managed really well, and so it's fun to now see the inside and the outside of that. I'll just briefly mention Keep It Colorado, for those not familiar, is a coalition focused on private land conservation. The core of our membership is made up of land trusts and some public agencies and other conservation partners. And we try really hard to be supportive of the policy environment, the learning, and the community engagement that kind of helps support that community and amplify their impact at the state level. Let's see. One of the things that we did is a couple of years ago in 2023, we came out with the statewide roadmap, a 10-year plan for conserving private lands in Colorado. And it really was this collective community vision. 60% of the state is private lands. And so this is an opportunity for that side of the state to come together and set some big ambitious goals. It has 3 big goals: doubling acres conserved, doubling community engaged, so the people that love the land, and then doubling resources going towards conservation. It then also outlines these pillars, so climate resilient landscapes, community-centered conservation, so making sure the projects and the landscape is relevant to the communities involved, collaborative water solutions, resilient agriculture sector, and then lasting sustainability for the organizations and the infrastructure that makes all of this happen. This came out 3 years ago, and for the first time this year, we're thinking hard about how we can measure impact. And I think we're asking ourselves, where have we made progress? What successes can we celebrate? And where do we need to do more work? And CNHP and COMAP and COTREX have just been instrumental in starting to dive into some of those questions. It's been a really great partnership, and it's just amazing that we have this statewide resource that has so much information in it that can help us answer these big questions about the future of private land conservation. We've also been partnering with CNHP on a survey, and I'll turn it to Caitlin to share more about that.
Thanks, Robin. I'm Caitlin Twigo. I'm the Special Projects Coordinator with Keep It Colorado, and I'm here to just give a little bit more color to our partnership with CNHP on the survey. So I'll start by saying that this partnership really emphasizes and helps all of the parties involved to really do what they do best. So I would say that CNHP is fantastic on the data front and collecting data and sharing that and making it available to everyone, especially all of these partners that you see here. Keep It Colorado, we really consider ourselves a connector. That's one of the things that we're pretty great at, I would say. And then all of these land trusts here, they are really good at reaching out to the landowners and connecting with them, and they know how to reach them in ways that CNHP and Keep It Colorado might not. And so the goal of this partnership was really to streamline CNHP's efforts and give them more time to do what they do best, which is to reach out to landowners and go and survey that property. And so Keep It Colorado, as the connector, went ahead and looked at the map of all of the 2026 survey areas, and we thought of all of our members and land trusts that are in those areas that would be able to facilitate connections with landowners. We then reach out to them to see which of those would be interested in reaching out on CNHP's behalf, and they then went through lists of, I would say, thousands of properties that CNHP is ambitious in trying to reach over the next few years. And they saw out of those properties which they would be able to contact or which they thought would be worthwhile. They gave us some really invaluable insights into, in some cases, which properties maybe CNHP does not want to visit because of potential landowner challenges or safety concerns. And they went through and then were provided with outreach materials that CNHP created. So that includes brochures, FAQs, any data agreements that they'll eventually be receiving. And they were provided with all of that information that they were then able to provide to the landowner, and the landowner could say, yes, we want our land surveyed, or no, we don't. And if they do, then those land trusts could provide CNHP with phone numbers, addresses, any of the pertinent contact information that CNHP didn't have access to. And another part of this partnership is that CNHP wasn't necessarily set up to invoice all of these land trusts for their work, and so Keep It Colorado, being in the position that we are, was already set up to do that. And so that was another piece that kind of helped streamline CNHP's work and give them a little bit more time to do the data collection piece. So far it's been going really well. our deadline for land trusts to reach out to landowners is, I think, the end of this week. And so we're hopeful that we'll have really great turnout, quite a few landowners that are willing to have their land surveyed. And the data will also benefit all of the partners that we work with in land trusts as well, because it gives them data that they can then use when they're putting together grant proposals that says this land is really valuable to conservation. And it wouldn't be possible without the data that CNHP collects. So far this partnership has been fantastic, and we hope that this will continue to go well over the next few years, and we'll continue to work with them until the end of the survey in, I think, the end of 2028.
Thank you so much for that rundown of our private lands work. I'm going to invite Clark Hollenberg up to the stage now. He's going to tell us about how he's taken one for the team here to go on a rafting trip. Come on up, Clark.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, it was pretty challenging to choose just one story to highlight from the last 2 years working on the statewide natural heritage survey, because we just went to so many amazing places across Colorado and got to work with a lot of great private landowners and different public land agencies. So it's been a really great project to work on. But definitely at the top of the list was this rafting trip we got to go on in Dinosaur National Monument. So when we were doing our field planning for sites to visit last year, we saw these incredible canyons in Moffat County, far northwest Colorado. And the challenge was it was really hard to get to a lot of these places because there's no roads. It's in remote wilderness within Dinosaur National Monument. But lucky for Becca Harris and I, Jennifer Ackerfield had secured 3 spots on a rafting trip from the National Park Service staff and Dinosaur. So we got to go look for rare plants there. So there's a lot of hanging garden plants in Dinosaur National Monument that we were looking for, but one species in particular that was a real target was this Erigeron wilkenii, or Wilkins fleabane, which is critically imperiled globally. So as you can, kind of hard to see in these photos, but the two on the, I guess, your left-hand side are photos of Erigeron wilkenii, and then the one on the right-hand side was recorded in herbarium records, but Jennifer Ackerfield had looked at these photos and thought maybe this was actually a different species. So there's this Erigeron wilkenii is only known from Dinosaur National Monument. It was described in 1989 as a species, so pretty recent. So we wanted to go to these areas and collect some genetic material. So it was a really, really boring trip. There was not any fun at all. There's Becca and I getting ferried along the Yampa River by one of the Dinosaur River rangers. And it was six days and 70 miles of river that we got to raft and stop along the way. So one of the challenges is this trip was already planned out by the monument staff. So we had kind of tight deadlines, like the park superintendent and a lot of other important people in the monument were there as well. This is a hand-drawn map of one of my favorite side excursions, but we only had an hour to do this. So as you can see that blue arrow kind of towards the top of the screen, this was provided to us by a community scientist who is an avid backcountry traveler and dinosaur. And he had heard that we were looking for this Erigeron wilkenii, and he said, "Oh, I think I maybe saw some of those white flowers, way up in this side canyon." So he drew us those little blue lines in the canyon are the ways to get around the pour-overs or little cliffs to get to the plant location. So with only an hour to get up there, we started hiking and realized we weren't going to make it. So we just started running, and we're climbing over boulders and just scrambling as hard as we could to try to get to this precious plant. And we sure were rewarded. Right at the very top of that scree slope, exactly where our friend had pointed out, we did find Erigeron wilkenii. and it's one of 3 known locations globally. So this was a new location for CNHP's database. And this photo on the right, we realized that there was a Ridgeron wilkeniae and this other species that Jennifer Ackerfield had identified in the herbarium specimens, and they were growing right next to each other. So it was a really good indication that these were actually different species and not just morphological variation across different growing conditions. So we were able to collect samples for both of them, and I'm going to be working with Jennifer Ackerfield for my graduate research to do a phylogenetic analysis of these species and some related taxa in Utah. So this is a really good outcome for conservation. Taxonomy is really important. This Erigeron nematophyloides was not on our tracking list, was not even in the NatureServe network at all, even though it was described in 2012 by Stanley Welsh. So we were able to add it. We will be able to add a different species, which is probably a G2 globally imperiled plant. And we're also going to have really strong genetic support for Erigeron wilkeniae being a truly rare species. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Clark. What a great mission of discovery that was. Well, I'll go ahead and call up Stacy Coleman, who's joining us in person here from the Department of Natural Resources for our tribal engagement segment. Jimra Gifford is going to join us online as well. So yeah, come on up. So here we can sit here. I'll say a couple quick words and then I'll turn it over to Jimra. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Stacy and Jimra. I'll just say a couple words before we kick it off over to Jimra. Working with tribes in Colorado has been a central part of the statewide Natural Heritage Survey. We want to engage with tribes in a spirit of trust and support. Our goal is to help tribes and empower them to make decisions concerning Colorado's natural heritage. That includes cultural heritage for many species and places here. We want to share data and knowledge to support tribes' goals for conservation, management, and development. And our goal is to do this working alongside professionals and community scientists with the tribes. We are happy to do this also by engaging youth and communities. And I think this is where being part of the land grant mission is of helping Coloradans through service, education, research, and extension really matters. We don't know what this is all going to look like yet, but we are planting the seeds right now with amazing leadership and expertise from Jimra and Stacy, and we're so grateful that we are doing this alongside both of you. So I think Jimra is going to go ahead and share some updates about this, and then we'll pass it on over to Stacy.
Thank you so much, Dave, and just really excited to present today virtually, although I very much wish I could be with you all in person. So thanks for the flexibility. My name is Jimra Gifford, or Jem. I'm serving as CNHP's Tribal Engagement Specialist, and I am also a PhD candidate in the Human Dimension of Natural Resources Department here at CSU, doing my dissertation on the broader field of Indigenous-led conservation and the effective models for state tribal collaboration and natural resources. And it's also an honor to be co-presenting with my friend and colleague Stacy Coleman, the Tribal Affairs Assistant Director from the Department of Natural Resources. So we'll give you a short update of what we've been up to and what our long-term vision is for the statewide Natural Heritage Survey. You can advance to the next slide, please. And the next slide. Thank you. So the statewide Natural Heritage Survey has 4 primary goals, as you heard earlier on. I'll be focusing on the first bullet point here, the collaboration that we're working on to start out with the engagement with the Ute Mountain Ute and Southern Ute tribes, who are the 2 federally recognized tribes here in the state of Colorado, but certainly not the only tribes that have at one point or another called Colorado home. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. The next slide, please. So I think it's important for us to talk about natural heritage being also cultural heritage. Natural heritage programs in the past have not always been able to work with tribal nations or include Indigenous knowledge in what they consider the best available science for biodiversity data. And so when I'm thinking about natural heritage, that is a part of cultural heritage. It is a part of Indigenous knowledge. It is a part of tribal language and history. When we're thinking about culturally important species, we need to also take into account the cultural landscapes that we're surveying. So we really want to help kind of change the perspective of what biodiversity data means. It's not just that data point for one animal or plant species or fungi for that matter, but really these animals are and plants are a part of our stories as Indigenous people. So it's our goal to prioritize culturally important species on the survey efforts, and also building upon the work with Colorado's outdoors strategy with the tribal framework for collaboration. So we're intentionally coordinating with partners like Colorado Parks and Wildlife, as well as NGO partners in the Southwest to engage with tribes in the region. I hope you are all seeing the slides on your side. I got a note that you may not be, but we'll get them shared out with you afterwards in case they're not showing up. So fear not. The next slide, please, is focused on the, let's see, one moment, I'm getting a note here. All right, let's see here. All right, so we're also focused on integrating some of the principles of the tribal collaboration framework, which is something that is brand new that was published last year as a result of the Colorado's outdoors strategy. And it is a toolkit. It's a guide that you all should have access to. Maybe you've heard about it. But it really lays out what the Ute Mountain Ute and Southern Ute Indian tribes felt was important for partners to know about how to work with them. What are the values and ways we can work together? And in a nutshell, we just really want to emphasize long-term relationships and mutual respect of tribal partners as sovereign partners is key, as well as working together to mobilize resources like data and funding for the inclusion of tribal priorities in the outdoors. We have 3 primary goals for the statewide natural heritage survey around tribal collaboration. I can advance to the next slide there. The first goal is to ensure that our efforts have clear and culturally responsive and beneficial outcomes for tribal nations so that this project is relevant for tribal nations and it's not just a state project that is being done on the side without their inclusion or consideration. We want to build trust and build relationships between CNHP and other conservation partners in the state and tribal biologists and staff. And lastly, we also want to facilitate a platform for tribal governments to interact with, collaborate, and engage with non-tribal entities and interested parties and partners. So the statewide natural heritage survey becomes sort of this portal or this place for engagement with tribes and other conservation entities. I'll wrap up a couple more things here before turning it over to Stacy. Some of our current action steps on the next slide there have been to actually meet in person with both Ute Mountain Ute and Southern Ute tribal staff and biologists to share about the project and hear what their priorities are for the survey effort in 2027 in the southwestern part of the state. And we're really excited to continue developing this relationship with the tribes and focusing on the particular species and areas in the southwestern part of the state that are of interest to them. And we've seen a lot of exciting opportunities around surveying off tribal reservation land, such as in neighboring state parks and other public lands that are of importance to both tribes, considering that the entire state of Colorado is tribal land and ancestral lands for Ute peoples. We're also going to focus on doing surveys side by side with tribal biologists to continue that working relationship, and hopefully we'll be able to work with youth and elders and get people out on the land doing surveys with us as well. So we're really focused, yes, on the data, but especially on relationship building and long-term work together. The last two slides I'll leave a link in the chat to access the tribal framework for you, but you can go to the next slide, and there's 10 suggestions of how partners can support tribal priorities in the outdoors. And priority number 7 and number 10 on the next slide help us, those of us working in biodiversity data, to think about how can we support tribal priorities, specifically for Ute, Mountain Ute, and Southern Ute in natural resources and conservation. And one is this idea of linking cultural resource protection with natural resource protection. So in other words, there may be ways in which we as partners can help provide funding, capacity, and technical assistance for cultural surveying, whether that be cultural resources or culturally important plant and animal species, both on reservation and non-reservation lands. And then number 10 is data sharing and equity. So taking measures to ensure that tribal partners are able to regularly access, find, and use plant, wildlife, and recreation data. We're also working with both tribes to collect new data, particularly when our goals are mutually shared. So please check out the guidance framework for tips and tricks of how we can continue to support tribal partners in conservation, which is a field where they've not always had a seat or have been excluded. So I'll turn it now over to Stacy Coleman to share a little bit more about the DNR Tribal Affairs Program. And you can advance to the next slide. Thank you, guys.
Well, good morning, everyone. Stacy Coleman. I'm the Assistant Director for Tribal Affairs with Colorado's Department of Natural Resources. It's good to be here with so many partners that we've worked with on many different things, including the outdoor strategy, which was a Herculean effort by many in this room, as well as the guidance framework for tribal collaboration there. It's been wonderful to work with CNHP as we start on the statewide heritage survey here, and especially to be able to really ground a lot of the work that we started through the Colorado Outdoor Strategy together a little bit more intentionally in the guidance framework for tribal collaboration. I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to some of my CPW colleagues back there that really work a lot on this, in this area of work with us every day. When you pull behind the curtain there, you'll see that we're really connecting this in a lot of different ways at Colorado Parks and Wildlife and the Department of Natural Resources and through our partners, so that we can really ensure that this is happening through a partnership web across the landscape. I'd also like to give a shout out to our friends at Great Outdoors Colorado, who have been just a phenomenal partner in really helping us support this work and advancing it writ large. What Jim was alluding to there is one of our strategic priorities for the Colorado Department of Natural Resources that we set a few years ago. We set 5 of them, and one of them at the top there was advancing tribal engagement and community relations. This is a big deal, as it's important for state agencies to really encompass this in a holistic manner, not just through one specific tribal or a strategic priority here, but through actions that you can see. Just like CSU's land acknowledgement at the very beginning, our public lands here, our state public lands, are all ancestral lands for many different tribes and indigenous communities. So it's very important that we center this, in our work as as a state agency and a department, but also with our partners too. And when we work together, we can really advance things beyond where things have been for many, many years. I think, with the Colorado Outdoor Strategy and the Guidance Framework for Tribal Collaboration, Jem highlighted some pieces there, but I can't just emphasize it enough. I'm seeing CNHP put this into work every day, and I'm just, would say everybody go online to the Outdoor Strategy, go to the resource hub there and check this out. It is a little bit of a lift at 80 pages, but it's well worth it. And at the end of each chapter, you'll see some of those excerpts that Jem had provided there, and really providing tables that can give you a quick, almost like a cheat sheet on if you're new to this, and if you're not new to this and you've been doing this a while, well, these are common issues that we still see come up within our organizations, whether you are a part of a higher educational institution, a state agency, or a non-governmental entity. These are all common areas of interest that we're seeing in terms of the shared goals that both the Ute, Mountain Ute and Southern Ute Indian tribal leadership provided to us, but also in the barriers and pitfalls that we still come across. So one of the things I wanted to note, though, with the CNHP and our statewide heritage survey here, we started working together early. I mean, because of the work we've been doing in the tribal partnership arena. And so this planning and progress and already meeting with the tribes is something that we sat down and intentionally talked together first to coordinate as two different entities there on where our areas overlap, and then also, how we can then make sure that we're prioritizing tribal interests here and where they want to go. A big part of this is letting, the tribes in their inherent sovereign status, actually develop the pathway forward for us and for us to be supportive of that. Another piece that you'll hear probably from Jem, if you haven't already, is data sovereignty in that piece and how we're working to maintain that. So there's a lot that goes into this. And then just so you know, with CPW, we're doing a number of different things in the background to sort of advance our work here and with this through community listening sessions. We just finished, 8 community listening sessions statewide to talk about state parks with our tribal partners and indigenous community partners. And this really relates to that too, how we can best protect traditional medicines during, a time of climate change and other areas of work that we're seeing that connect to our state parks and public lands. We're also at the Partners in the Outdoors Conference. It's coming up in April, where the Colorado Outdoor Strategy was first unveiled last year. This year we're doing a tribal summit, and we're meeting with tribal leadership to be able to talk more about how do we advance this work together. So we are putting our words into actions. And I think something that might be good to hear, though, is because CNHP and CPW, we've long been partners here in DNR doing this work, but what was it like for you, Dave, to sort of experience this and working with us and stepping into this space specifically early on for the, to do the survey sort of components?
Thank you, Stacy. It was really exciting to engage on this as another way to move the Colorado's Outdoors Strategy forward and to put the framework for tribal collaboration into action in the service of this project. And, when we met with the tribes back in December, it was really enlightening to see that the kinds of natural resources challenges that the tribes are confronting, align with the things that everyone across the state is trying to figure out, and that we have common ground there, and how the tools and the ways that we can put science and data to work to help address those. And I also was really inspired by the spirit of the desire for partnership and collaboration and working together. And it was very exciting to feel like we have a really productive and value, good path forward here.
Absolutely. I think one thing that struck me about our planning is that, this is just the very beginning of it. When you're working with tribal partners, it takes many years to build up that relationship and trust. So keep that in mind. This took many years of both, DNR, CPW, and CNHP working in that area to build up that particular relationship. And then for us to sit down together, that's just one of many, sit downs that we're having, because the arc of this relationship building is intended to be multi-generational, not just one project and one point in time. So as we continue to do that work, it'll be for the parts that the tribe is open for us sharing publicly. We're excited to do that and to share with others so that you can learn from this as well and use it as a case study. And then hopefully we'll see it in the next sort of rendition of the guidance framework for tribal collaboration, because there will certainly be many volumes that go into this with all the partnership work that people are doing here. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jim and Stacy. Let's see, who do we have coming up next here? These words are very small. Okay. We have Jeannie coming up next from Great Old Broads for Wilderness. Come on up. Here's this.
I don't need it.
Okay. Do you need notes?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm good. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeannie Summerl-Harrow, and I'm a member of Great Old Broads for Wilderness. Great Old Broads is a women-led national grassroots organization that engages and inspires activism to preserve and protect wilderness and wildlands. We focus on 4 core activities, and that is education, advocacy, stewardship, and fun. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And if you'd like more information, I do have some brochures on the back table. But what I'm really here to talk about is our collaboration with CNHP. So the Northern Colorado Broadband, our local groups, we call it broadbands, has done some beaver monitoring with the Forest Service, and we've also volunteered with the Forest Service to do campsite monitoring in wilderness areas. But last year, we started partnering with CNHP to help with a statewide natural heritage survey. And we've been given access to herbarium records of rare plants that haven't been observed for 20 or more years. And it's our job to see if we can go find them and record current populations and their conditions. So I want to apologize up front if I don't use correct terminology or Latin names. My degree is in computer science and not botany, and I'm doing my best, but I feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose most of the time. That said, I've already had a couple successes finding plants and a whole bunch of learning opportunities. I'm sure it will come as no surprise to everyone else in this room that IDing plants can be difficult at best. What I didn't realize was that our very first attempt at finding a plant was relatively easy and wildly successful. Unfortunately, that set us up for disappointment when we searched for a second specimen, and we're so convinced that we had found it. I mean, it was right where the locality description said it would be, that I neglected to take photos that proved our ID. And it wasn't until after we'd returned home that I realized that Hall's monkey flower is very, very similar to the common yellow monkey flower. And I hadn't taken any photos with a ruler that would help me differentiate between the two. So that was a hard lesson learned. Dichotomous keying guides are critical, not only for a proper ID, but also to help decide which photos are going to be helpful in proving our identification. So after that experience, it became clear that we needed to do research before going out into the field, not only for proper plant ID, but also to target our search area as precisely as possible. So one case in point, there's an herbarium record for narrow-leaved milkweed that was collected in 1897 in Horsetooth Gulch. And I put that in quotes because no one seems to know where Horsetooth Gulch is. Now, I live between Horsetooth Reservoir and Horsetooth Mountain, and I have never heard of a Horsetooth Gulch. And it turns out, like I just said, no one else has either. I searched a bunch of herbarium records, and the GPS coordinates that were translated for that were literally all over the map. And so I decided, and the GPS records that were associated with this particular plant specimen were located on a ridge line east of Horsetooth Reservoir. That was not a gulch. And I decided that I was going to try to figure, and in addition to that, the uncertainty radius, 10 kilometers. Now I am supposed to be searching for a plant that was found in 1897 and has not been recorded in this county since then. So I decided I needed to narrow this down. And my curiosity got the best of me, and I was going to figure out where Horsetooth Gulch was. I went to the Fort Collins Local History Archive, and a curator helped me do some searching of old newspapers. Lo and behold, she found a paragraph from a 1920 newspaper clipping that said, "As Mrs. Frank Miller of the Northern Garage and her friend Miss Dwinell and chauffeur, all of Fort Collins, were returning from Estes Park Wednesday evening, they had a very narrow escape from a very serious accident as their car skidded off a bridge at Horsetooth Gulch, near Butler's Ranch. Fortunately, no one was hurt, and Patrick Butler is digging his potatoes this week." So the curator then pulled plat maps from the same time period, so that I could determine where Butler's Ranch was located. And I then used Photoshop to layer the plat map and a current topo map and came up with an idea of where Horsetooth Gulch might be. By now, my husband's curiosity was also piqued, and he suggested that we look at maps on the Colorado Division of Water Resources website. Long story short, the waterway that we currently know as Spring Creek in Horsetooth Mountain Park is actually called Horsetooth Creek, according to the Division of Water Resources. And if you look up Spring Canyon, what we currently know as Spring Canyon, from Shoreline Road, which is on the west side of Inlet Bay, at the very top of that canyon sits Horsetooth Mountain. I think we have found Horsetooth Gulch. I have yet to search for the actual specimen. That's supposed to be this summer, but at least now I have a much more targeted search area that's easily accessible in Horsetooth Mountain Park. And if you're interested in my more detailed report of that research, I have a little QR code. You're welcome to find me at a break, and you can download it yourself. Thank you.
I don't think the reasons why it's so wonderful to partner with Great Old Broads for Wilderness need any further explanation after hearing that story, Jeannie. Thank you so much. Come on up, Maggie. Maggie Gaddis is the president of the Colorado Native Plant Society.
How's it going, folks? All right. And I'm the executive director. Actually, our president is here, Ann Grant. Thank you. All right, so we're a nonprofit organization with a mission very similar to CNHP's mission. We are here to support native plants and habitats of Colorado. And we have many committees that help us to do that through various avenues of native plant exploration. So like conservation, field studies, restoration, education, horticulture, etc. We love to partner with CNHP. And we had formerly been working and still do with CNHP on the USDA Region 2 Rocky Mountain Native Plant Materials Program, U.S. Forest Service. And so that kind of paved the way for this relationship and funding that we received from CPW. So together with CNHP, we feel we can be like this community arm, right? And it was kind of cool at the beginning when Dr. Conant said that what we do here at CNHP is make science useful. And I feel like that's what we do at CONIPS too, but we make botany useful for the everyday human being. And as y'all will, I'm sure, have heard me talk about before, if you've ever heard me talk, we always are looking at rare plants or plants of any kind on a need-to-know basis, right? I think we're all scared of identifying plants because we think that you start on page 1. And that just doesn't really happen, right? We're all land managers here. We all have a need to know. We start with a seed list for target seed collection, right? Which is what we do in the Forest Service program. Or maybe you're looking for a rare plant, or maybe you're looking for an invasive species. Maybe you've planted a seed mix, right? And you want to know what that looks like when it comes up on the ground. So there's always this need to know with botany, and I feel like that's where our relationship with CNHP really blossoms. We help to extend the great work of CNHP to all the people by just helping them to ID plants. As Jeannie, I loved your story. That was wonderful. Great segue. And so essentially, when Jessica Smith said, please write us a letter of support for the statewide natural heritage survey, we were like, sure, of course, but then we wanted to help, right? It was really exciting. So the Colorado Parks and Wildlife has a Partners in the Outdoors grant cycle, and I recommend everyone here explore it. As we just heard, our Partners in the Outdoors conference is next week at Cheyenne Mountain Resort, next month at Cheyenne Mountain Resort. And it's a lovely gathering like this one of folks with similar land management questions and this idea that we want to make science useful, right? And so we petitioned the Partners in the Outdoors grant cycle for support of the statewide natural heritage survey, and we received that grant. And that has helped us to do exactly what Jeannie was saying. Kind of bring people to the table, but most importantly, help them to learn how to ID rare plants, right? We gotta be sure. And one thing I love about my job, I call myself a recovering academic because I used to work at the university, but I love community science. I wrote my dissertation about it. And essentially, there's this place where the rubber has to meet the road, right? Your community science initiatives have to have measures for data reliability. And so what we have really cultivated over the years through the Forest Service program and through this statewide natural heritage survey work is this pathway for data reliability in botanical community science, right? And Jeannie put her hands on it. You gotta touch the key, right? And we teach people how to key plants backwards. So you gotta know about a plant, you go to the index, right? And then you find the plant, you read about it, and then you figure out, okay, how'd I get there, right? If it ends at 4B, how'd you get at 4B? You had to have chosen 3B, 2B, 1A, whatever. Then you go forward and you have a rubric, right? This is a rubric for your botanical identification. And it goes to another thing we talked about, Jeannie mentioned, right? What's that practical skill? It's photography. And so no one has used this word yet today, but who here uses iNaturalist? Love the iNaturalist, and it is a key tool that we use to support the statewide natural heritage survey. And what we're really teaching people to do is take good photographs, right? But how do you know what a good photograph is? Well, it's not going to be the Tom Fielder that goes on the wall, right? It's going to be this weird photograph of the bracts and the ligules and, all sorts of things that only dorks like us would really care about. But if you look at the key first, you can know what to photograph. And essentially, that's the message I want to deliver is we have really cultivated this cool educational concept for data reliability in botanical community science. And for this, I thank CPW so much because this funding provided this space for us to do this. And we train our chapters through programming. We make these fun slideshows about keying plants backwards. And then we have 9 chapters around the state. And so all of our chapters will be leading rare plant activities. We call them rare plant hunts. And this story, and also the rafting story, was a perfect example of a rare plant hunt. And so we train people to go out and look. And as Jeannie also mentioned, we're looking for historic records. And what I like to tell people is, if we find those 20-plus-year-old observations, like, we're putting those plants back on the map. We're bringing them back to life. And so that is the motivational piece, right? As I understand it, I might be wrong. If a rare plant hasn't been observed in over 20 years, like, it's no longer of management concern, right? So when we help to update those records, we really keep this conversation alive. And I only have a few more moments, but I want to mention that HB 241117 really created this space, right? There's been so many amazing things going on in Colorado, including legislation. And so HB 241117 allowed Colorado Parks and Wildlife to embrace rare plants and invertebrates in their management purview. And that is really another big part of what we're doing here, is helping make science useful. There is also a piece of legislation that's coming to the Senate floor in a couple weeks. This is HB 261132, which is affectionately known as the Native Plants Bill, but actually it's called Concerning Pollinator Habitats. And so please keep your eye out, communicate with your legislators, because we've had some great wins to put native plants in our legislative conversation while all this federal disaster is happening. So yay, Colorado and Colorado's outdoor strategy. And finally, I will go out by saying happy birthday to Colorado and the Colorado Native Plant Society. And if you too love iNaturalist, please take observations of blue columbine in 2026. The Colorado Columbine Challenge is our community science effort to make blue columbine the most observed species in iNaturalist in the state of Colorado. Guess what you think it is? What do you think is the most observed species? Any? Mullen. Let's change that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maggie. Board member Grant Musgrave straightened me out here. Maggie's the executive director of the Colorado Native Plant Society. So thanks, Grant. We're so excited that Grant on CNHP staff is now on the CONIPS board. So we're doing great on time here. Thank you, all of these wonderful speakers. You have done a better job of staying on time than I do, and we're grateful to you. We're going to invite Rebecca Fries up to take us right out into our break that's coming up next. She has a story from the field for us. Rebecca's a curatorial assistant at CNHP and former Sigley Conservation Science intern, and very soon graduate of CSU. Well, come on up.
All right. Okay. Again. So hello, my name is Rebecca Fries, and like Dave said, I was a Sigley intern this past summer, and I couldn't necessarily decide on one story from the field to tell, so I will be giving an overview of my summer. My first hitch, I worked the BioBlitz in Louisville, and I got to work with the public and amazing mentors at CNHP on plants, small mammals, birds, and insects. And that's actually when I had my first casualty of the summer, because I lost a pair of sunglasses, and it was a little less my pair as much as they were my sister's pair. And I never told her that, and she's finding out right now at this moment. So I'm very sorry. It was a very heartbreaking moment for me. And that's also when I had a little appearance on the news, which Tristan will tell you was the launch pad to my global stardom. And he will very enthusiastically implore that you watch that. And that is not what I'm up here to do, because personally, if you have watched it, please do not tell me. I do not want to know. So my couple of weeks after that were my first rare plant hitches, and I was looking for penstemon in Eagle County and Pagosa skyrocket. And I did so much pinning in those weeks. I was pinning in my dreams. I was pinning in my nightmares. It was just everywhere. I couldn't escape it. And I did get to fill out some of the data worksheets, and I felt very official. And as it might come to a shock to everybody in this room, but finding rare plants is not easy. And so I really refined my identification and observational skills over this week. And this internship also really taught me to be prepared for the unexpected and how to adapt to sudden changes. Because I did have a couple of tumultuous weeks where, I watched a wildfire start near my campsite, which is very humbling to watch from a distance, but those LPIs aren't gonna take themselves. And I did nearly have a run-in with a mother bear and her cub. And I also might have been driving the car when the windshield cracked, but there was nothing I could do, and it was very stressful for me. But like any good intern, I did persevere. So, and then I did also have a week of working wetlands in Summit County, and those were some of my favorite trips. And I got to learn wetland plants in Colorado, and I spent time in wetlands and fens, and that was a first for me. And I took soil cores, and I learned how to use a YSI, and I got rained on every single day of that hitch. And I ended every single day just soaked and covered in mud, and I had so much fun. It really spoke to the Oregonian in me, so I had an absolute blast. And I really loved that week. And my final hitches were working the Gloria projects, where I got to work in the alpine ecosystem with alpine plants. And that was also a first for me, and I have a newfound appreciation for everyone that does that work, because it is not easy to get up there, and it is not easy to stay warm up there either, even if it's the middle of the summer. And I also learned quite a few less scientific things this summer, such as you can do a full season of field work with long nails. And and I also did snack my way through this summer, and I have gained an appreciation for the importance and impact that a sweet treat can have on team morale. And my lovely internship partner and I became quite the connoisseurs of ice cream this summer. So if you ever need any recommendations, you can just hit us up and we've got you. But I got to see very beautiful parts of Colorado, and I got to work with interesting people and interesting projects. And I learned so much from all of my amazing mentors. And I've gained so many new skills, and I've gained a lot of confidence in my ability to learn quickly and to push myself. So I'm very proud to say that I got to spend a summer as a Sigley intern, and just even extending my time with CNHP through my job, which helped me get into grad school. So that was a very nice perk. And yeah, I had just the most amazing, wonderful experience over my summer. So thank you all so much. I had a great time. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for regaling us with such wonderful tales of adventure, Rebecca. It sure was great to work with you as our intern and our curator at CNHP. So this is going to take us right into a break here. During this break, we're going to play over the speakers an original composition that was written by Renee Rondeau's husband's brother, Dave Rada. It's called the Pagosa Skyrocket Suite, and it is a musical composition about the life cycle of a G1S1 rare plant, Pagosa skyrocket, Ipomopsis polyantha. So please enjoy that while you hang out and catch up with friends. The break's going to be 15 minutes, and then we'll get back on into our program. Thank you all so much for getting us started with such a wonderful morning here. Let's go ahead and get started again. Let's see. All right. Well, we're going to kick off our second segment for the Statewide Natural Heritage Survey. That's going to take us right into our segment with Ms. Colorado Senior America that comes up right after this. First in our lineup here in the second half of the morning is advancements in data collection. Poor Roy Gilb is very sick right now. He's going to be okay, but he was not able to join us. What's wonderful is that he has the best pinch hitter you could ever possibly imagine, which is Amy Greenwell. So come on up, Amy.
Is it just the green button?
Yep,
Yeah.
green button.
Okay.
The tape is the laser. If you
Oh, yeah. Okay.
and the red is back.
Okay. Hi, thanks everybody. I'm Amy Greenwell. I co-lead Conservation Data Services at CNHP with Michael Menifee, who you'll probably see taking some photos. Yeah, unfortunately, Roy wasn't able to make it today. But I do want to make sure he gets a lot of credit because he has been working very hard on these tools. He's the one that's put most of the blood, sweat, and tears into making this happen. It's not as exciting as rafting trips or going to history museums or even making cool bug collections, but data management is critical to bringing information to you all to make conservation happen. So one thing we spent a lot of time on is upgrading our data collection efforts. We still have folks that are using paper and volunteers, but the majority of our staff right now are moving to Survey 123 and ARC field maps. So this is all online, so everyone has access to all the information, no matter where they are in the field, and everybody can see the same thing so that they stay coordinated. We've done a lot of custom work on field forms, so if you collect information on animals, you're going to get different fields that pop up than if you're collecting data on natural communities. And we've tried to set it up so that there's as many kind of pick lists and domain values as much as possible to decrease data entry errors. And then we have and then we have a field map section too that has some key heritage information in it, like the locations of our element occurrences, so that when staff are out in the field, they have that to reference. All this is to try to make data collection as efficient as possible. It's really expensive to do field work, so we need really sophisticated tools to make that as cost effective as possible. So here's a little screen capture of the field maps. So this shows the heritage data, so our staff have that. One thing about the field maps piece is we're trying to keep it just kind of as small as possible so that people can download it onto their units for the whole state, and they don't have to worry about messing with that every time they go to a different place in the field. So the first stage of this whole process with heritage work is developing what's called targeted inventory areas. So these are places that we want to do field work. So we feel like they have a high opportunity for rare species and plant communities in Colorado, high biodiversity. And we've also prioritized areas that have been undersurveyed too, that we think have significant biological resources. And that's part of that leveling up Colorado so that everybody can come to the table with the most biologically significant locations identified in their county when they're doing this regional partnership work. So over on the left, you'll see our targeted inventory areas. We have thousands of these right now. They're prioritized. Obviously, we won't be able to hit all of them during the survey, but this is going to live on in perpetuity and be a guide for CNHP when we do project work into the future. And then over on the right, you'll see the dot maps, and that's where we had done collected our field data from last year in the Survey 123 form. So we're trying to use these targeted inventory high priority areas to drive our field work, but we're also being opportunistic. If we see things or we run into people and create relationships out in the field, we are certainly going to take advantage of that as well. So it's not necessarily only field work and targeted inventory areas. So another important piece of this too is landowner contact tracking. You heard from KIC earlier that they have partnered with us to help get access to private lands. We want to be very conscientious about not having multiple folks contacting the same landowners for field access. And it actually is a lot more complex the more you think about it, because we have lots of different teams of different disciplines out in the field. We have our partners helping us with this, land trusts helping with this. So we realized right away we needed to have a landowner dashboard so that we can track communications over time. This is all in ArcGIS Online, so everybody is able to access it. So our field staff can tap into this to see where we have permission to go survey private land. And then our outreach coordinator, Julie, is the one kind of managing all this contact information behind the scenes. So there's a bunch of related tables in there, all the way from this person's been called to they're thinking about it to yes, we have the ability to access this private land. This is also another tool, actually all of them are, that are going to live beyond this project. So this project has been crucial for us to build the infrastructure for core heritage work that'll go way beyond the statewide surveys over and help us achieve all of our goals a lot more efficiently, at least from the data side of things. And I guess that was the last slide. Sorry, I am not Roy. But I did want to mention one other thing too, is we are also online storing our tracks so that we have everywhere that we've gone in the state, and we're categorizing them by whether it was on foot field work, whether it was driving. A lot of times people can be doing field work from the car. And then we also have flight miles too, because we have a partnership to get free flights around Colorado. So we're tracking those as well, just so that we can kind of like holistically describe our effort at the end of the project. So thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Amy. We're so excited about these innovations and are embedding them into all of our work at CNHP. It's really helpful programmatically to have these new tools. And let's go ahead and invite Tyler Lovato up to the stage, CNHP zoologist and former, kind of a long time ago, CNHP Sigley Conservation Science intern. Yeah, come on up, Tyler.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave. As Dave said, my name is Tyler Lovato. I'm a field biologist and GIS data guy in the off-season with a focus on the reptiles and amphibians here in Colorado. So I like to say that I'm a snake wrangler in the field season and a data wrangler in the off-season. I was a Sigley intern a couple years ago. Then I was a work study at CNHP, and I was lucky enough to be hired on for this statewide survey. I'm just going to give you a couple highlights from our field season so far, as we've been looking for the reptiles and amphibians out there, mostly in the southeast counties, which were our priority counties last summer, and they are kind of the herp diversity hotspot in the state of Colorado. So the first one I have for you guys is the Texas thread snake, which I consider to be Colorado's weirdest, coolest little snake that we have. It's not a worm, it's a snake. but they do spend their entire lives underground and probably will never see the sunlight unless a curious guy like me comes along and flips over their rock. But we were able to see quite a few of these guys at the beginning of the season, last field season, due to some really generous wet field conditions, which maybe we won't get this year, but we'll see about that. And yeah, we were just able to see a lot of these individuals, making it seem like maybe they're not quite as rare as we once thought they were in the state, but it really is just that you need to catch them right at those prime conditions, and they're only surface active for that really short little window. So yeah, just awesome to get a little bit more data on those guys down in southeast Colorado. And the next ones I have for you guys is the round-tailed horned lizard. These are definitely the rarest of the 3 horned lizard species that we have in the state. They're only known from 3 very disjunct localities in the southeast counties of Colorado. And so we were able to find a couple of those guys on a property where they've been persisting for decades. So it was awesome to see that they're still going strong there. But then we were also able to locate one at a different area and kind of confirm that locality as somewhere where they are existing. And so yeah, just these guys are super mysterious. We don't really know where they are and how they're doing in the state. So any little bits of data that we can get is just going to help us out to really figure out what's going on with them. They're about that big around, and they're just pebbles with legs is what we call them. So it's not the easiest of surveys when we're out there looking for them, but luckily we're able to find a couple. Then the last one I was going to share is just the eastern hognose snake. We spent many hours driving dirt roads in southeast Colorado to see if we could catch one crossing the road, and we finally were able to get this big, healthy adult crossing the road. Despite what he's trying to show you in that picture, he was definitely alive when we first came across. And yeah, that was the furthest southwest into the state that they've been documented so far, and it's only the 8th or 9th individual in the state that's ever been documented. So just awesome to get another dot on the map for this species, kind of see what habitat they're using in the state, just to give us a better idea about how we can conserve that habitat and make sure that we're doing the best we can for our reptiles and amphibians in the state of Colorado. So yeah, that's all I had for you. Really successful field season, and I'm just grateful to work here and be able to go out and look for these awesome creatures and be able to share it with you guys today. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Tyler. I think you were the one who told me that the eastern hognose snake is a total drama queen when it comes to their feigning death. Well, okay, let's invite Ellie Linden up to the stage. She's got a really nifty dashboard to show you.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm going to get the dashboard loaded up here so we can take a look. Perfect. So hi, everyone. My name is Ellie Linden. I'm a spatial analyst at CNHP, and I've been helping to develop this Colorado Natural Heritage Survey dashboard. This has been a huge team effort across a ton of people at CNHP, and so we're really excited to show it to you today. This is in development right now, and so we're just going to give you a little sneak peek of what we plan to show with this. We won't go into the full thing. This is just to kind of give you an idea. And so in those green boxes near the bottom, we can see the different pages that we plan to show on this dashboard. And so we have these species and communities, survey effort, potential conservation areas, scorecard metrics, and a user story map. Today, I'm just going to be showing the species and communities portion that we have set up so far. And so once we click on that bubble, we can see that we have come to a dashboard page where we understand that a lot of our data is very complex. And so to account for this, we have these sidebars on the left that we hope can provide some background information and help the user understand how they can interpret this data. For now, I'm going to minimize this so we can see the dashboard a little better, but the user can expand that at any time if they wish to go back and read about the data. And so right now we are looking at a page where the data represents a snapshot from 2025. We plan to update this dashboard as new data becomes available. So this is just meant to show you an idea of what it will look like with the most recent data. And so on the left, we have the number of mapped locations, and we can click on this little identifier button so we can understand what this means. And so we can see that this is the total number of mapped locations in CNHP's data system. And in the chart below, that breaks that down by the major taxonomic group for the different bars, and then those bars are color-coded by the different global imperilment ranks. And we can also hover over any of these bars to see the underlying information if we want. Moving over to the middle, we have the number of species and communities. And so for this, we can see that this is the total number of distinct species and communities tracked by CNHP that have spatial data, again, split by the different taxonomic groups with the different bars and color-coded by those global imperilment rank statuses. And if you're curious to see what any of those individual species and communities are that make up these statistics, we can explore those with this list on the far right. And so for these, we have the species or community name, the taxonomic group, the G rank, and the S rank. This is interactive, so we can search, for example, toad. That's going to filter this list to show 3 of the toads in Colorado with spatial data right now. And so we can see 1 is critically imperiled and 2 are secure. Those can be seen with those the colors of those boxes there. And I'm going to remove that search filter. So far, we've been looking at the full state of Colorado, but we can perform some different filters here at the top. And so, for example, we could select a county. We could search for Larimer and select this, and it is then going to filter all the information on the dashboard to just Larimer County. We can also select the groups that we are interested in. So for example, we could choose a few here. So we'll do amphibians, insects. Once I scroll down with the MAC, apologies, natural communities and vascular plants. That's going to narrow down those bars so we can see that in a little bit more detail. And then we can also select a few of the rounded G ranks. So for example, if we choose these first few at the top, we can see those most threatened species and communities here more highlighted. And so this has been the snapshot summary subpage. I'm now going to move on to the snapshot by geography. And this is going to show us some similar statistics, but this time spatially on a map. Right now it's going to be summarized by county to start. And so for this, we can see that this layer is showing the number of CNHP mapped species and community locations, where the darker the green shade, the higher value per county. We also have those values labeled there on the map. And if you click on a county, you can also get some underlying information, such as the taxonomic breakdowns of those values. We can turn on and off different layers here. And so, for example, we could turn on highways if we are interested to see where those are in the map in relation to that layer. For now, I will turn highways back off. We can also adjust this layer. So right now it has been showing the total number of CNHP mapped species and community locations. We could adjust this to be for invertebrates. We can also change this to be the number of unique CNHP mapped species, which has that same color ramp, as well as this other layer that is going to show the rarest species present per county. And so we can see that the darker the red shade, the more rare the species found within that county is. And so far we have been looking at this at the county scale, but we also have watershed scale as well. And so for example, we'll go to that same layer just to compare. And so this is that same rarest invertebrate present, but now it's by watershed. I'm going to move on to the snapshot by species and communities page. And this is also going to use a map as the main visualization. This one is a little different, where you're going to search by the individual species and community in the top right. And so for this, we will search for Pagosa skyrocket. If I can spell, sorry. Here we go. It's going to zoom into that location on the map. I'm going to zoom out a little bit just so we can put it into context of the rest of the state. And so this is the CNHP mapped locations for Pagosa skyrocket, which is a plant. We can see more information here on the right, such as the element profile. And so if we click this, it's going to navigate us to a different page that in this case is going to take us to the Colorado Rare Plant Guide. And so we can get some more information here on this plant species. And so if we scroll down, we can see the description and phenology, the picture, the habitat, the distribution, and the threats and management issues. So you get a little bit more context on that species. We'll navigate back. We can see some other information on the right, such as the G rank is G1, so it is critically imperiled, and it is also endemic to Colorado. And so you're going to be able to use this information to kind of put together the different pieces of this species here on this page and see where its CNHP mapped locations are. The last bit that I'll show is the tracking list changes page. And this page is going to provide a space for us to compare a database at different snapshots in time. And so for now, it's currently showing the tracking list changes representing 2024 versus 2025. But again, this plans to be updated as more data becomes available and as time goes on. And we especially see this as a good way to use to kind of compare and track progress within the SNHS project. And so as time goes on, we'll be able to have more comparisons so we can see how our database has changed. And so within this comparison, on the left, we have some statistics. And so we have the number of species and communities that have been added to the tracking list during this time, the number that have been removed from the tracking list, the number that have had an increased tracking status. And so again, we'll click this identifier to see that this is the species and communities that have moved to a higher priority category within CNHP's tracking list. And so for example, from a watch listed to a partially tracked, we have the number of decreased tracking status. And so this is just the opposite, where a species or community has moved to a lower priority category within CNHP's tracking list. We also have the number of G rank changes and S rank changes. And then if you're curious to see the exact changes that have occurred that are funneling into those stats, we have that table on the right that shows different information for those different species and communities and some different attributes there to the right. And you can see that there are a suite of filters there at the top to allow you to really dive in and explore these changes. I'll just show you one example here so that if we wanted to just see information in cases where there has been a increased tracking status, we could filter this to be yes. That's going to filter all of that information. So we can see one example of this is the fourth row down. A golden eagle was not tracked in 2024, but became watch listed in 2025. And so that's just one example of how you can dig into this. But you can see there's a lot of different filters that you can do to explore this. And so we really hope that this dashboard can provide a way to track survey effort and different types of data set changes through the SNHS project, as well as support CNHP moving forward as well. So thank you.
I have a question for you, Ellie. When are we going to see this turned on live?
We hope this summer, I believe. Yes. This summer is the goal. Yes, thanks.
Yay. Thank you, Ellie. I guess I don't have to tell you that Ellie is an utter genius when it comes to building things like this. We're so grateful for your awesome work. Okay, next up, we've got inviting Amy Greenwell back up to the stage to share some data successes.
Hi, I just wanted to share with you some of our data successes since we started the statewide survey in 2024. So these are kind of the three main areas we focused on in terms of data. We have our infrastructure and tools, which we went through earlier, and then Ellie showed us the dashboard. We've also have some batch upload ARC Pro tools in the works too for external data sets from, is this still on? Okay, from INAT and HertMapper, and I have to shout out to Tyler and Clark who have done a lot of work on that, so I appreciate you guys making that happen. For this presentation, since we've gone through these other pieces earlier today, I'm going to focus on species and communities and mapped locations. So I think most of you are familiar with the heritage ranking system where we have the G1 through G5 ranking system, G1 most rare, G5 most common. Before we started this project, we had our G1 and G2 plants. We're in pretty good shape in the database. But since statewide, we can now add the G3 plants to this group. And thanks to Georgia Doyle and her data team for making that happen. In terms of the G4 and the G5, many of those we didn't really have a handle on before the statewide survey. We have someone dedicated right now to looking at these, so we're focusing on the ones that are uncommon in Colorado, even though they're globally secure. And right now we're assessing tracking statuses and mapping them. And so for all of the ones that we're tracking now, we have spatial data, so we've included all the known spatial data from herbariums and other data sources into biotics. And then this will help kind of feed into our data system, which will then help feed into our targeted inventory areas and help our botanists this summer when they're searching for rare plants. We also have some exciting developments on the non-vascular plant front. Clark has been working with the Bryophyte Conservation Alliance. So they've reviewed our tracking list and made a ton of improvements. And they also reviewed a lot of known locations that were just in herbariums or in their databases, and a lot of them weren't even georeferenced, so they helped us tremendously with that. And then with some of the tools that Clark's been working on, we were able to batch upload a lot of that information into biotics. So we've now increased our locations of mosses 5-fold compared to where we were a couple years ago. And now Clark's working on collaboration with fungi, so hopefully we will have the same situation for this as well. So our expert friends are certainly a key part of this. We really appreciate their partnership and rely on them for some of these more kind of obscure taxa that we're trying to track in our database. In terms of the status of animal data, we have updated tracking and ranking for all of the groups based on all of the work that was done in the SWAP. So this isn't location specific, but it does help us identify what the status is in Colorado, whether it's rare or common, and whether or not we want to spend the effort to track it, which basically means we're collecting geographic locations on where it's located. So for amphibians and reptiles, we've had pretty good coverage for the rarer species, but this statewide project has also helped us leverage resources to add over 800 map locations from HertMapper and iNaturalist, and thanks to Tyler again and Clark for helping with that portion of it. We have some good relationships with iNaturalist observers where they're willing to share their data with us even though it's obscured online for regular users. So that's been another really wonderful partnership to get more expertise at a more kind of precise level into the biotics database. Birds, fish, and non-game mammals are a little bit similar to where they were when we started the project. For fish, we really rely on CPW and federal partners. Birds, we have eBird and a lot of good resources in CPW, of course. So we kind of have to like balance where we want to put our effort in, like what is the most unknown and the most important to gain through a project of this size. I will say that we did hire a zoologist that is focused on birds for statewide, which is the first time relatively recently we've had someone focused just on birds, and he's put a lot of emphasis on Pinyon Jay. We also have an invertebrate team right now, or sub-team, I guess I would say, and this is the first time in many years we've had a group focused on invertebrate zoology, and that is led by Tristan, so they're in very good hands. Since the statewide started, we have been able to get really good coverage for all the Tier 1 and the Tier 2 swap inverts. And we also did a ton of ranking around that too, so we added a lot of things to our tracking list. We were able to bulk upload thousands of map locations. And we also have Scott Ellis. He's a butterfly expert in the state that is volunteering with us to gather his expert friends to survey Colorado and help us identify rare butterflies, which is amazing and awesome. In general, invertebrates have some issues where there's a lot of uncatalogued specimens and few taxonomic experts. But now that we have our own and are trying to leverage our resources with our friends, our biotics database is getting a lot more robust in this area, and hopefully will continue. So the status of the community data, we've been syncing up our plant associations to the USMVC. It's one line on the slide, but is actually a ton of work. So the slide doesn't do it justice. If you haven't had a chance to look at this, please do. It's a hierarchical system, the way of thinking about plant communities at different various levels of the hierarchy. We track at the lowest level of the hierarchy, which is the plant association. And then part of this project, which is so cool, is this feedback loop that we have and this opportunity we have to do the feedback loop through statewide. So we're doing all the reconciliation with the MVC that goes into our biotics database. That's where we store all of our biodiversity data. Then we're going to be out in the field on statewide, and we're going to see probably new associations or things that don't quite fit. And we have an opportunity to give that feedback to the MVC and have a peer review done and hopefully refine the classification. So what is element tracking? This means these are the species we pay the most attention to. So we do have, in theory, we would like to have everything in biotics that's in Colorado in our database, but a lot of it we don't track. We consider them stable. And that just means we don't necessarily collect geographic locations for those elements that we think are more common. So right now we track over 1,500 species in Colorado. And then, of course, we have our natural communities. We focus on all native plant associations in Colorado, even if they're common. We have some that are unknown origin. We are not sure if they are native or not. And then we have 563 exotics in the database. And we also have some rural natural communities. Out of the 6,000 natives, we have about 190 endemics, which means they aren't known from anywhere else in the world except for Colorado. In the last couple of years, we've added over 400 elements to our tracking list. This doesn't mean that things are necessarily declining. It's more of a reflection of all the work we've done, as mentioned earlier, on our invertebrates and non-vascular plants, and then all the tracking changes we made during all the work on the State Wildlife Action Plan. And we've added over 100 elements in Colorado. So every year, oh boy, we do data exchange, and I'm going to have to cruise here. Okay, so for element ranking, this is the information on the global and state. So we might have things that are common globally, but they're rare in Colorado, so you'll see the categories are different. We've added over 2,000 state ranks. That's our domain. So a lot of those have changed from not ranked to ranked. So right now, about 75% of what's in our database has a state rank. Range, threats, habitat, life history, map locations, and EO ranks all go into that. So there's a lot of information that can be involved in a rank. Right now, we have over 63,000 map locations in biotics. And this is pretty cool to see. You can see the baseline on here in 2024. We used to add about, on average, 2,000 map locations per year. But since we started statewide, we're mapping about 7,500 map locations per year for antibiotics, which is just absolutely wonderful. Here's a just quick shot to let you know we have models for plants. We're going to add 15 more, hopefully this summer, for our Tier 2 plants. And Tristan and his team did some zoology range maps for the swap invertebrates. So we'll be hopefully getting those up on Codex this summer as well. So this is just kind of an overall summary of data side of statewide. We're building our infrastructure. We're adding Colorado elements. We're reconciling to MVC. We're collecting all this information on these species and communities. And it all boils up to providing scientific knowledge and informed decision making to you all. And it'll be shared with everybody in Codex, our online resources, and our data sharing partnerships with you all. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy. Boy, that work in the back of the house is very hard and very unshowy, but absolutely incredible. I think there is the tip of the spear, but what you do is the spear. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Grant Musgrave, who's going to tell us a story from the field.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Grant Musgrave, and I'm a botanist and vegetation ecologist working on the statewide Natural Heritage Survey. I focus out on the East Slope, so a lot of those plains and prairie communities. And I'm also a CONIPS board member. And I'm just going to talk about some of our exciting finds and field experiences. As a broad overview, our East Slope Veg teams collected botanical and or ecological field data in 14 counties across a variety of land ownerships from Boulder to Baca County. And I just want to express our gratitude to all of our federal, state, and local partners and the private landowners who made it possible. And then for highlighting our field experiences, I'm going to talk about the May Ranch in Prowers County, which we surveyed this past September. There were a lot of significant biological discoveries and a lot of collaboration between our teams and others like Jody Kennedy from CPW. So it was a fun trip because there was our team, the invert team, the herp team, so Tristan and Tyler, and then the Eastern Slope Wetlands led by Barrett. And we were joined by Jody Kennedy and then the May family, so Dallas May. I really enjoyed getting the opportunity to meet with folks and hear about what they were finding, and the additional benefit was that when we saw something of interest outside of our field of expertise, we could just track down the right person and say, hey, have you seen this really cool thing over here? And get to nerd out about it together. In terms of what we found on the veg side, we recorded 5 new occurrences of CNHP tracked species. These were sandhill goosefoot, Andean prairie clover, dwarf prairie clover, and tall silverbush, as well as dwarf purslane. 3 of these were county records in Prowers when cross-referenced between Biotics Database, Jen Ackerfield's 2022 Flora of Colorado, and SciNet records. I'm not going to talk about each one individually, but the occurrence of tall silverbush was particularly exciting because it represents an approximate 80-mile range extension from the last known occurrence. So that was pretty exciting to come across. We were fortunate enough to find these records in robust enough populations that we were able to make collections, which will be deposited at the CSU herbarium here for future reference. And on this note, I want to recognize the contributions of Dina Clark, who helped us with a lot of these trickier specimens. And then moving into communities, we recorded 4 natural plant communities on the May Ranch, 2 of which are of particular biodiversity significance. Neither have been listed as occurring in Colorado and don't have any element occurrence data. And I just want to recognize that these names reflect the current best fit and are subject to change or reclassification within the USNVC. So this first community is the Central Great Plains Little Bluestem Prairie. It's dominated by little bluestem, side oats grama, and blue grama, with species like buffalo grass and hairy grama growing on upper slopes. It felt like the best fit due to the alignment between the field data we recorded and the existing descriptions regarding geology, soils, and floristics. And as it stands, this community is ranked as globally vulnerable. The second is sand sagebrush, sand dropseed shrublands, which do not have a description in the NVC, and so our classification is informed by comparing similar ecological field data to similar types throughout the NVC, but it was truly dominated by sand sage and sand dropseed. I'm already at 1 minute. So these are really important because of that feedback loop that Amy was mentioning. They indicate additional need for inventory, and if we're able to document them across Colorado and the landscapes in the plains, we're better able to justify revisions to the NVC. So once again, I want to thank everyone's contributions. Couldn't have done it without all of your help and partnership. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Grant. I wish I could have been along on that trip to the May Ranch. It's such an amazing place. Well, next up, we have our final speaker in this segment. That's going to be Dan Zimmerer, who's going to share some words from the perspective of the sponsor of this project from Great Outdoors Colorado. So come on up, Dan. Thank you so much.
Well, good afternoon, I guess. Again, my name's Dan Zimmer. I'm with Great Outdoors Colorado, and my role at GOCO is Parks and Wildlife Partnership Manager. Half of our funding and resources we invest through CPW, Colorado Parks and Wildlife. They're our largest partner, and my role is to serve as a liaison and help manage that partnership. So, David, I just want to thank you and your team at CNHP for hosting this event and for the opportunity to share a few remarks. So with that, we'll get started. So GOCO's mission is to help the people of Colorado protect, preserve, enhance, and manage the state's wildlife, parks, rivers, trails, and open space heritage. And we've done that for well over 30 years now, to the tune of about $1.7 billion, and that is billion with a B. I had to throw that in there. And those are lottery proceeds that we put right back into Colorado. And we've done this with nearly 6,000 projects across all 64 counties in Colorado, and some really significant outcomes, including almost 1.5 million acres that have been conserved, and 1,856 new recreation areas either created or enhanced. So some really cool outcomes, and there's a few other stats up there. But with that, I wanted to talk about one of our programs from our last strategic plan. So our 2020 to 2025 strategic plan, we created this signature centennial program, and really excited about that because one of the projects that we funded, and it was a very competitive legacy style program where we were looking for high impact, once in a generation projects. And it was super competitive. We earmarked almost $100 million for this over the 5-year spending plan that was associated with the strategic plan. And just a few number of projects were selected for funding. And one of them was the statewide natural heritage survey. And so we're really pleased to invest $7.8 million into this project, and I got to tell you, it's really cool to be sitting in the audience and listening to all the presenters and seeing the success of that program. And we were just thrilled to invest in that. It helps us identify lands of statewide significance. That's what the Constitution charges us with. But we also saw huge efficiency gains in investing on this scale. We'd previously invested in site-specific surveys, maybe county-based, and to just do this in one big fell swoop was really cool. And I think part of the reason that we were really interested in this at the time was Colorado's outdoor strategy. And again, I got to tell you, it's super cool to just hear so many references to Colorado's outdoor strategy, to the Regional Partnerships Initiative, and now we have this statewide natural heritage survey, and just to see the connectedness of all these programs and projects coming together, because that's what the outdoor strategy is about. It's about driving towards shared goals and aligning resource funding and efforts across agencies, organizations, and partners across the state. And just super rewarding to see this all coming together. And with that, what was really cool about that Natural Heritage Survey is it was really important to one key piece of the outdoor strategy, and that was the resource hub. And this was the one-stop shopping where our consultant partners, and CNHP was the lead on this effort, compiled all existing resources, created new resources to put the best available science in accessible format for land managers, decision makers, and we're so excited about that. We're using the Resource Hub to inform our decision-making now in our new strategic plan. And just really excited about it. And one thing I want to share is a quote from someone on your team, David, Michael Menifee. I know he's here today, but at the outset of this, Michael shared that this Resource Hub would be a living legacy of tools for the strategy. So it's not just another plan that sits on the shelf, that it lives on and people use it and it's active, and it's really proving to be that. So with that, just wrap up. I don't want to stand between us and our next speaker and lunch, but really appreciate hearing from everyone. Really excited and rewarded to hear the stories that you're all sharing. The stories from the field are awesome, and just to see this coming together is cool for GOCO, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, Dan and his team deserve incredible commendation for their vision in guiding and instigating conservation all across Colorado. It is so inspiring to work with GOCO and to be a part of the great mission that they have for conserving Colorado and making it a wonderful place for us to live in forever. So I think that GOCO deserves a big round of applause for all that they do. We're pretty lucky to live in a state where GOCO is doing what they do. We had a couple minutes here for final words for the statewide natural heritage survey. The only final word I wanted to share was that I forgot to say something important about the project, which is that it started in 2024 and it goes through into the early spring of 2029. So it's a 5-year project. We're kind of just getting towards the middle of it right now. So we still got a long ways to go with it. And with the time that we have, was thinking we should invite any questions or thoughts that folks care to share right now. And because we're a little bit ahead of schedule here, and we'll open up the floor. Any questions for us? Comments?
Hey, just while we have all of our partners here, if you have ideas of places that we could survey around Colorado, please let us know.
Oh, question.
Thank you for a wonderful morning. It's a related question actually to that. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more on how the prioritization of sites took place, especially with the time frames in which you're surveying them and how that all came to be. Thank you.
Sure. I would like to pass that off to the folks who've been working on our TIAs. I know Susan, Clark, who would care to, or Julie, who would care to offer some thoughts about that?
Okay, at CNHP we have an elaborate ranking system that starts with global and state ranks of the elements of biodiversity that we're tracking. And so the highest priority areas for survey are the ones that we believe may support these, the highest ranking are G1, G2, G3 species and plant communities of concern. And then we're looking for those elements of biodiversity in areas that we believe support the highest quality habitat. So unfragmented landscapes with ecological processes that are intact to support those elements of biodiversity, and areas that are also have some potential for conservation opportunities moving forward. So those are the main things. You guys on the TIA committee can help chime in on the other factors that we considered. How large of an area? Well, we're looking at the whole state. Yeah, so our targeted inventory areas can be of any size. And it really depends on what the targets are that we're looking for. So if it's a wetland, it might be kind of a small area, even though you're kind of considering the hydrological setting of that wetland. But if it's a shortgrass prairie that you're targeting, it's huge. Some of our rare plants are found on very specific geological substrates or soils, and so we would target the areas that have those physical conditions of the rock and soil. So that might be a small outcrop, but we're looking for the biggest ones and in that functioning landscape. Anybody else want to add to that? Tristan?
Well, I'll say, I mean, to draw these boundaries, it's species specific oftentimes, like Susan mentioned. And so there's no one size fits all. And we have, the TIA committee has a wonderful methodology document that we've used to try and capture some of the methodology that we do. But I just wanted to speak to the practical sort of approach to this. You know, we are out looking for things that are very hard to find. And so there's a in-office exercise that, you know, we've kind of used, and then there's a field sort of validation method. And this comes with the understanding that this process is very, very iterative. So we go out, we test, we refine. We go out, we test, we refine. And that goes over and over and over again. And so by the time the statewide survey is over, we're going to have a really robust methodology. But again, back to the practical side. In the office, what that looks like is training our eyes to aerial imagery, trying to use the best aerial imagery we possibly can to draw these. And it's kind of fun because we're basically cartographers of treasure maps, right? The targeted inventory areas are the X on the map. And then we get to go out and ground truth those in the field when field season rolls around. And we, you know, it's always fun. I must say, it's like Christmas morning or a birthday morning, you know. Going and visiting these TIAs is like unwrapping a present because you can kind of guess and gauge what it's going to look like from that aerial imagery. But once you get boots on the ground, I mean, most of the time my breath is just taken away at some of the cool features we find. So that's sort of the more practical side of what our TIAs look like. And we've been doing a good job of documenting that methodology. So yeah.
Any other questions?
I have a question from online. Is there anything else to add about how CNHP is thinking about helping nature adapt to climate change through the survey or more broadly than the survey?
Well, certainly knowing what we have and where it is the key to conserving the elements of biodiversity in Colorado. We can't do anything about the things we don't know where they are and how they're doing and what we have. So it's kind of a foundational part of this project to figure out the answers to that question as best we can. But yeah, I wish I had the silver bullet to solve this climate change dilemma where species conservation is concerned. Maybe others at CNHP have thoughts. Oh, or others. Gary, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, getting the support to do a statewide biodiversity inventory, that's kind of a state natural heritage program's dream. Although I think it doesn't take too long in thinking about that to realize it might fall in the category of be careful what you wish for. It's incredibly complicated. And you guys are doing a great job. And I think to the extent that others in the network can think about this, thank you for breaking trail on this and showing us all how to do it right.
Thank you, Gary. Let's see. Go ahead, Joanna.
Hi, I'm Joanna Lemley. I'm the wetland team lead at CNHP. You'll hear from me a little bit after lunch, but I hope I'm not stealing any thunder, Dave, but I wanted to draw some attention to our strategic plan that's on the back table. Were you going to mention this at all, Dave?
I was, but I forgot. Thank you.
Okay. We actually wrote this strategic plan. We just finally printed out some beautiful final copies now that we have Julie Kallenberger here, and our communications and outreach has really been elevated. But we have some printed copies of these in the back room. We wrote this plan 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I think, and we rolled it out originally at the partners meeting 2 years ago, before we'd received the GOCO grant. And it has been amazing. We recently reviewed it. Amazing to see what GOCO and the funding for the statewide strategy has allowed us to do. These were all goals. These are fundamental goals of our program to increase the data for conservation across Colorado and to build the kind of tools that you heard about today. So I wanted to extend a huge thanks to GOCO and recognize that these are things we've been dreaming of, and that when we talk about the statewide strategy or the statewide Heritage Survey, it is a project, it is a 5-year project, but it really is the work of CNHP at its best. And we all hope that the 5 years, when the 5 years is over, that we get to keep doing this work with you guys. So thank you all for your partnerships.
Thank you, Joanna.